Love podcast, hate nonsense. It's the PoliticsJOE podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! Ed Campbell, how are you?
Great, thank you, Laura. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And Ed Davey, how are you?
It's great to be here again. Hi, Laura. Hi, Ed.
Hello. How did you feel about the sentiment of the intro? Love podcasts, hate nonsense.
Isn't it a good idea? No fake media here.
No.
No. I mean, with very, very timely intro with all the Jeffrey Epstein connections in the news today. And I guess that's kind of why you're here to talk to us, because you're boycotting Trump's state visit.
Yeah, I am.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's quite nuanced, actually, because I actually supported the idea of a state visit for Donald Trump. You might be surprised, because although I have been the opposition politician who's called him out in the way no one else has, and I don't like what he's doing, etc., I still think you should engage. And I think, he clearly loves all the pomp and ceremony. We might be able to extract something from it. So I actually was in favour of it, and I intended to go to the banquet. Partly because, and this may not be fashionable with your viewers, I don't know, but I actually like King Charles and respect the monarchy. And so it's quite a difficult decision. But I was discussing it with my wife over the summer, because she was invited, obviously, too. And really, when we kept seeing all the images from Gaza, the humanitarian catastrophe, the kids who were, you see the skeletons that are starving, the kids who were killed queuing for water, and actually the emaciated hostages when Hamas paraded them. I thought it was disgusting. And then you look at Trump and you go, well, you could stop this. You are the one person in the world who could pick up the phone to Netanyahu and say, stop it, otherwise we'll pull your funding. He could phone the Qatari government, the Gulf state government, and say, tell Hamas to release hostages. And he has that power. No one else does. And I felt he'd come to this country, do all the pomp and ceremonies, state banquets, blah, blah, blah. We talk about tariffs, maybe some other stuff, but we wouldn't talk about the one thing where he could actually bring peace. And I wanted a debate about that. And, he doesn't care who I am. He doesn't know who I am. And I wouldn't get a chance to speak to him at the state banquet. But I wanted there to be a debate about this because he has moral responsibility in this piece.
You called what's happening in Gaza a genocide. The UN Commission inquiry ruled Israel has been committing genocide in Gaza. But last week, David Lammy, who was then Foreign Secretary, said that it wasn't. The UK didn't think it was a genocide in Gaza. Do you have faith, given that Keir Starmer will put any sort of pressure on Trump over this?
I fear he won't. That's one of the reasons why it's important as an opposition party leader to raise that in the way that I've done. I mean, on the genocide question, I called it out after I saw the UN Commission report. I mean, I've been noticing what the International Association of Genocide Scholars have been saying. They've been calling it genocide for some time. Organizations in Israel have been calling it genocide, including B'Tselem and others. I had sort of felt we might need to wait for the court to decide who oversees the Genocide Convention. But when you saw what happened over the summer, what's happening now, you sort of feel you can't wait for the court decision. And so I welcome the UN Commission report. It's very detailed. It talks about the intentional killing of children, amongst other many crimes. And, it quotes from leading members of the Netanyahu cabinet, what they're saying. And Hamas is a genocidal organization. Let's condemn Hamas, right? It's in their constitution, they're genocidal. But the Netanyahu government is behaving in a genocidal way, and the UN Commission's clear. What that means is our government should accept that it is, and they should act accordingly. And in my view, the thing we should do is focus on Trump, because he is the only one who could really end it, and end it quickly.
Would you handle the relationship with Trump any differently? Starmer has been making big overtures since he came to office, or since Trump returned to office, rather, of building a friendly relationship. There was David Lammy, when he was Foreign Secretary, apparently had a very good relationship with the Vance and the MAGA movement. And the whole debacle with Peter Mandelson has been a result of his determination to build a strong relationship with the Trump White House. Whether that's gone well or not, or whether the fallout from that has been worth it, who can say? Would you be approaching this differently?
Yes. I mean, I speak as someone who's not just pro-European, and you understand that from the Liberal Democrats, but I've been pro-American all my life. Although I didn't necessarily particularly like their policies, think of Ronald Reagan, think of W. Bush, and you think, well, I'd have them back to swap for this guy. And the way he behaves in America, the way he behaves around the world, the way he behaves to the UK is just outrageous. And I know we have to try to keep that special relationship going at different levels. We need to work with countries who, at least in their heart and their constitution, they share our values, really important for security. So I get that responsible bit. So if I was Prime Minister, of course I'd want to try to work with them. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. However, I do think there's a different way to do that. And that means calling them out when you disagree. You can criticize friends. Good friends could, tell their friends when they don't agree with them. We've got examples of it working elsewhere. Look at Mark Carney, who's the leader of the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister in Canada. Anthony Albanese in Australia. They have been critical, and I think that's worked. And I think you also have to have a strategy which is different from just kowtowing. And I think the strategy I've advocated is to create what I call a coalition of the willing on the economy. So as he hits our economy and hits the economies around the world, why don't we say to our Commonwealth partners, our European allies, countries like Korea and Japan, let's do some deals where we are upholding free trade, upholding the values that we thought democracy stood for, and strengthen our hand against Trump. At the moment, he's just bullying everyone. He's picking everyone off individually. And there is strength of coming together. And, I'm sure if a Labour minister was here, they'd say, oh, we've got this special trade deal. Well, the trade deal hasn't even been implemented, right? And it's got no legal authority. It's a sort of PR game, and that's unacceptable.
And someone else who you've not been kowtowing to is Elon Musk. Can you tell us why you felt the need to speak out about what he said at the Tommy Robinson March on Saturday?
Well, I've been in spats with Elon Musk a little while now, and I've been calling out for a while, even before we get to the Tommy Robinson rally and what he outrageously did there via video link. Let's remember, this is a guy who's called for the overthrow of the elected British government. He has said civil war in the UK is inevitable. I don't call that friendly. I don't call it reasonable. And I've called that out before. And what he did at that march, as he supports Tommy Robinson, and we know, the racism and hatred that Tommy Robinson spews out, he went on this video link, and although he chose his word carefully, he did say violence is coming. Fight back or die. Those were his words. And while you could interpret them in different ways, saying that to that group of people at that moment, I thought was deeply irresponsible and deeply dangerous. 26 police officers were hurt, 4 seriously hurt. And while there was a lot of peaceful protests, and I defend the right to protest, I defend the freedom of speech, he abused that, interfering in our politics. And so I did call him out. I've written to other party leaders to say we should collectively come together to call him out. I think it's really important we stand together on this. I'm not trying to make it particular. I want it to be UK calling this man out. Just because he's the first or second most wealthiest person in the world doesn't give him the right to interfere into our political system in the way he does. I think he's outrageous.
Calling freelancers, small and mid-sized business owners. Tide's Instant Saver account offers up to 4% AER variable, flexible access and competitive returns.
Unlike other options on the market, you won't need to hold your money with Tide for a fixed period. That means you'll have instant access and free withdrawals whenever you need it.
You can get started today with just £1, making it easy to start growing your business savings.
Want to know what you'll earn? Tide's clever calculator gives you a clear picture up front.
Our audience will receive £100 cash back when you deposit £5,000 within the first 30 days of opening your Tide Instant Saver account.
Use code JOE, that's JOE, JOE. New members receive an annual equivalent rate of up to 4% AER variable, free for 6 months. For the full offer, visit tide.co/Joe. T's and C's apply.
It seems to me people of the ilk of Elon Musk and Tommy Robinson are sort of playing a new type of politics that people like yourself, like leaders of political parties, MPs, aren't even aware of the rules of the game. And it seems like you cannot fight back against these forces. Like Elon Musk owns X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, and Tommy Robinson is amplified to such an extent. And if that's the medium of communication, there's almost no way to fight back about that. Do things like that concern you? Do you think there is a way to fight back
Don't be
against
too
that?
despondent. Let's not be defeatist about this.
Right.
I get that they're changing the rules of the game, and we can't be naive about that. And we've got to push back hard. But do remember, the vast majority of people agree with us. The vast majority of people have decent values. And yeah, you can listen to X and you can get very depressed, but listen to Joe. Listen to Joe Politics, right? Cheer yourself up a bit. There's different ways that you fight back. I mean, first of all, I think the government should go after the economic interests of Elon Musk. I mean, I always say with some of these people, follow the money. They don't really care about these different views. They're interested in their own bank balance. I mean, he may be the first richest man in the world, but he wants more. He's just awful, and he doesn't like the fact that the UK has legislated with the Online Safety Act to protect our children, and that's one of the reasons he's acting. He doesn't like the digital services tax, which is asking these big American companies to actually contribute a bit. And personally, I would go further than the Online Safety Act. We want to look at how it's implemented to make sure we are protecting freedom of speech. That's really important. However, I don't think a social media outlet like X can get away with the algorithms that it does that aren't transparent, aren't properly regulated, where they basically spread one type of political view and hatred. And I think it is fair game that is regulated. So I'd go further than the Online Safety Act to bring him to account, this powerful man to account. Liberalism is about empowering individuals to be the best they can be and holding the already powerful to account. That's what I believe. And he needs to be held to account. And I'd go further. I think the digital service tax should be raised, not cut. I think it's a legitimate source of funding. How can the Americans, people like Elon Musk, say Europe should stand up for its own defense? And then say, you've got to cut the taxes on our richest people. I'm sorry, it doesn't compute to me. So I think we should hit people like Elon Musk where it hurts in their economic history, doing the right thing, treating them fairly, but actually saying, well, you will abide by the law and you will pay your taxes. And so there's that way of fighting back, which I think is completely legitimate. The other way is humour. So, he called me a craven coward, and I wasn't on video link, I was here available, so we put SpongeBob SquarePants meme on, calling him a craven coward, and I'm going to make a confession. I wasn't really someone who really understood very much about SpongeBob SquarePants. I can't even get it right, but now I know a bit more about him than I did.
I was enjoying on Newsnight them trying to explain the context of that meme and
Yeah,
what it meant.
it's funny because I think I don't know, no offense, but as a younger person, I instantly understood what it meant and the
Same.
context. And trying to explain anything about, I guess, meme culture to someone who's not like a digital native, you do sound absolutely insane.
Can I also confess, when I was being questioned on the Newsnight interview, I was a bit worried they'd asked me too much about it because to be honest, I get advice from young people about my social media, and sometimes I go, really? That's what you want me to do? And they say, yeah. And I say, can you explain it a bit to me? Okay, that's all. That's enough. I'll just do it. And, so we do stuff on X. But I much actually prefer stuff when we do on things like TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And because they'll have my criticism of TikTok, nevertheless, I get the impression that a lot of young people are taking their news and their views and their ideas from TikTok. And I was really concerned that Farage has got so many followers and has sort of dominated that space. And I think talking about how we fight back against these people, we need to be everywhere. And we've taken an approach on TikTok where we want to be there, and we've had a really good positive response. And we're doing two things on our feed, the Lib Dem TikTok feed, where we're putting serious stuff up, my Prime Minister's questions, some serious videos, whether it's about Europe or Gaza or care or whatever it is about environment, sewage. But we're also doing funny stuff. And I've long believed, and I've written over the years about this in the last 5 or 6 years, that on the progressive side of politics, we've got to do emotion better. So if I caricature a bit, the Lib Dems have tended to be a party, and sometimes a lot of parties on the left have tended to be. We've done the reading, we've done the analysis, we looked at the facts, and we now know what's right. So just do what we say, eat your vegetables type sort of politics, right, as a proposition. And, I believe in reason and evidence analysis, by the way. I like things to be actually workable. But I think if we do that, that's a little bit, it's patronizing. It's not getting the vibe of our generation of where politics are at. And the right, they don't have any policies or ideas or thought through. They make a total mess of it, but they do humor quite well. So at the last election, people had a go at me for doing the stunts, but there was a reason behind it. I did these stunts. The cameras came. I then talked about our policies on mental health of young people or the need to clear up sewage in our rivers. But it was using, new techniques and new ways of approaching it. We did a party election broadcast about my son and about my life as a carer, which was, intended to tell the truth about who I am and the importance of caring, but also to make people think, oh, okay. It's sort of, and unless we do that on the progressive side of politics, we're not going to cut through. And it's really difficult for all the reasons. They've got the money, they've got the media. Farage has GB News, his own TV channel. His mate Elon Musk helps him on X. The right-wing papers are going for him. Farage and Reform are getting all the money, they're getting all the media, and we have to fight back in any which way we can. And it's the reason we launched this campaign, Balance the BBC, because the BBC aren't doing their job, in my view. I think they're breaking their own royal charter.
Last question for you, Ed. British politics seems to be in flux. The main two parties are in free fall in the polls. There's space for new parties like Reform or even your party, which doesn't seem to exist, has on paper some support. Why aren't the Lib Dems doing better in the polls?
Well, first I push back a little bit. The last general election, we had our best result for 100 years.
But it's not kicked on polling-wise since then, is my point.
First of all, we've gone up in the polls since election.
To 1%, isn't it?
No. Well, it depends which polls you're looking at. Polls I really like are elections. And the local elections last May, we outperformed our best expectations. We took over councils we had never run before. We got more seats than the Labour and the Conservatives. And although everyone focused on the Reform success, they missed our success. So since the general election, best result for 100 years, we keep winning at council elections with our community politics. Now, you're right to say we haven't done as well as Reform have in the polls. I think they've got some reasons why they've done well, and we need to fight back. And we are doing. I think increasingly, when you look at British politics, you're right to say the Tories and Labour are cratering. People lost trust in them, and poor leadership, divisions. I don't think they're going anywhere. And you're being left with essentially, no disrespect to your party, but two parties of real change. You've got the Reform Party on the hard right, who wants to take our country to a sort of Trumpian American position. Privatise the NHS, frack everywhere for gas, be dependent on Russian gas from Putin, all that sort of horrible stuff, which is basically what Farage wants to do. And then a party of change in the sort of liberal centre, if you like, progressive centre, who can reach out to disaffected Tories, disaffected Labour, bring people together behind policies of real change in our health service by really investing in care and supporting family carers, changing our energy bills to get them down by really investing in renewables, getting closer to Europe, serious about climate change, serious about social justice. Real change. And what my job is to make sure we get more of that covered. What I would say is when people hear it through our council campaigns or their local communities, we tend to beat Reform and we win people over. And our struggle is to, and I'll be very frank with you, is to get more people joining us, to be part of this change movement that's progressive, to stop Reform. Our struggle is to get more money and to get more airtime. And, you know, we've got this campaign on the BBC, so they just do their job properly. I'm keen to raise more money for the party and get more people to join. And I look at a lot of the data. There's real progress out there for us. Do I think there's a lot more to do? Of course I do. I'm really worried. And I see politics for us in two ways. I think we've got a moral responsibility to defeat Farage and that hard right, which is not true British values at all. I mean, Farage seems to hate our country, actually, you know, the way he cozies up to Trump and Putin and all the others. And we also, in addition to a moral responsibility, we've got a historic opportunity as well. And this is where I want to leave you with a hint of optimism. The right wing is split in British politics like never before, right? The right wing is split. It's never happened before. And if that remains the case between now and the general election, which I think it probably will, if it remains the case, then the ability for progressive parties to actually do better under first past the post than we've done, and we sort of did that in 24. We've now worked out how to play the system, if you like, back against the right. I think there's a real chance we can defeat the right. I mean, Labour's got to get its act together. I mean, the government's been a shambles, whether it's the welfare reforms, whether it's, you know, the winter fuel allowance, and so many things. They just got it wrong. And I sort of hope they get a bit better, to be honest. But we will take on that progressive mantle, and we're a big enough party to do that. I know there are other parties around, but they don't really quite have the sort of strength that we do and the presence that we do. I mean, we're not as strong as I like to be, but 72 MPs, our best ever. We now run more councils than the Conservatives, so we're actually well placed to break through. And I increasingly think if we're true to our values and campaign well, we could be the real surprise of the next election, and we can stop reform.
Ed Davey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Great
Thank
to be
you.
here.
Thanks to Tide and their instant savings account for sponsoring this week's podcast.
New members receive an annual equivalent rate of up to 4% AER variable.
Our audience will receive £100 cash back when you deposit £5,000 within the first 30 days of opening your Tide Instant Saver account.
Use code JOE. For the full offer, visit tide.co/Joe. T's and C's apply.